watching Play Replay with Async. In this video, I wanted to talk about Simon Stälenhag's Tales from the Loop and his other art books and stories, I guess. They're very interesting, and there's something that I think that could be translated into a film or a set of movies, a franchise of some sort, and would do well if done right. But first I want to talk about, I guess, the first one, which is Tales from the Loop. This is a story that they made a TV show out of on Amazon, which I watched the whole series. I guess it's a short run series or whatever, so it's basically just one season, which I don't get that, because if you go by his books or his art books or whatever they're called, he's got Tales from the Loop and Things from the Flood, which is the second one, and The Electric State and The Labyrinth. And that's what he's got out so far in this universe. So I would say that doing a season one and just doing it as a short run season or show or whatever, it kind of is like, well, what are you doing? What's the point? But the show, just kind of summing it up quickly, because I'm not going to give a giant review of the Amazon TV show Tales from the Loop. But for the most part, it has a lot of elements in it that look and feel like what you see in the books. But it just kind of loses, it's just boring. It's just, it's kind of like, it feels like Black Mirror, but more laid back and not so, it doesn't show you the negatives so much of the horrible things that could happen from a massive change in society with a lab that's kind of, this stuff is kind of leaking out of the lab kind of thing, where like society is dealing with these issues of like technology that's kind of come out of a lab. It's basically what they did is they changed the universe that these people are living in, and it's like people are dealing with it in different ways, and different things are happening to different people, and it's just strange. Hi guys, thanks for watching. I just wanted to ask you to please hit that subscribe button and like it and share it if you enjoy what I'm doing here. It helps out my channel greatly. And you can also find me on Instagram and Twitter, and I'm also on Rumble. So if you're looking for me, you can also find that information in the descriptions of most of my videos on YouTube. So thank you for watching. But I don't think I really introduced Simon Stälenhag properly. I guess I should have done that first. But he's a Swedish artist, and his books are, I think they basically feel like they're in Sweden, but they're just kind of a European kind of look to them. And they always deal with kind of a world where it's like the 80s and science fiction from the future kind of mingled. You're gonna see like pictures of like just a regular house, regular places, and regular world, but you'll see like robots in the woods just kind of watching over things. You'll see like you'll just see strange little scientific like technology or whatever in fields that's just kind of like, where did this come from? How did this get there? And it kind of makes you question the world. And it always seems like it's through the eyes of a child or a young adult, that they're kind of looking onto this stuff as if it's like normal in their world, and they're just kind of, it's just the normal thing for them, when in fact the world is changing around them in ways that they are not capable of completely understanding. It's not like Stranger Things, where it's happening to this, young girl 11 in a lab, and this, stuff happens to the younger adults kind of, so they can actually physically see it through the science aspect. In this universe, it's more or less what he's doing is he's kind of like giving you the picture, and you kind of have to kind of feel what you're going to feel about it yourself, which is very cool. So you'll see like these robots and these giant, whatever, two-legged robots or whatever, these different types of things happening, this technology, and you're just like, kids are playing in the snow or whatever, or kids are just like kind of around the area and these things are just there. But in Tales from the Loop, they're not really dangerous per se, you know? So like in the Amazon show, you see like consequences, I guess, of the technology, but it's not really presented as like this overwhelming, like grim thing that's like creeping up on them, you know? And the show kind of makes me feel like it's just not, it just feels like they just kind of did the show just to kind of tell a couple of strange stories and then that's it, you know? It's like they didn't take the time to think of a whole universe to make this world feel real, you know? Like, well, I shouldn't say that. The show feels real and it has all these, I guess, consequences, but they're not super overwhelming consequences, or they're not asking the viewer to go, what's the future going to be like if this continues down this path? Whereas in his books, like the Tales from the Loop, the first one, you see a world where it kind of just feels like I said, the 80s with kids mixed with futuristic technology that's coming into their world. And then now if I'm going to get into his second stuff, his second book and stuff, you kind of feel like what happens in the labs in the first book, basically something goes wrong and then there's this flood stuff. So things from the flood deals with the outcome of that, and then basically people, their houses and stuff being flooded out, and then you see like buildings where there's people, like lots of people live in these weird buildings and stuff, and there's like people have been, the world is changing in kind of a darker way. Things are getting worse, and you see the technology start to mutate, things start going wrong, and the machinery has like some kind of a like issue where there's like this goo and stuff that's kind of starting to eat at the world. It's like biomechanical something. Like, anyway, you see these images that he creates, and he does these great paintings. They're really well done paintings, and they kind of tell you the story without having to like force something, you know, and like tell you it. It's just kind of like a wordless image that, well, picture's worth 1,000 words. That's basically what it is. And so you get to see this world kind of getting darker over time, and it kind of eventually ends up being more like there's going to be an apocalyptic world coming, you know? And I imagine these kids from Tales from the Loop growing up in this, then they become adults eventually, and they would be experiencing the world, growing up in the world that's slowly falling to pieces. And science is basically what's causing this thing to fall to pieces, because scientists just have to push the limits of everything, and they have to keep going and make things. They have to just kind of break God's rules, basically, and they have to play God. And that's basically what the outcome of these books feels like. Is that there's a overwhelming thing with science where they have to keep pushing the envelope, and then eventually they're breaking things down, and the whole world is kind of screwed up because these people can't stop themselves from creating these machines and these things and trying to do new things. It's like they're doing it without ethics. Like they start out innocent, and then it's like over time they just start to lose themselves and kind of become something else. And then their ethics gives way to machinery that's, you know, they make mistakes, and they don't consider all the aspects of what could go wrong. And then these things start happening, and the world starts falling apart. And then you get a lot of consumerism and stuff in some of these stories too, where it's like, you know, people want to buy everything and they just keep buying, and you get into virtual reality even. But basically, Things from the Flood is a sequel to uh, the Tales from the Loop, and basically the Loop was also a collider thing that kind of changed things. You know, kind of like in our world, we kind of feel like CERN might be changing things. Maybe some people. I know it's a conspiracy theory, but you know, who knows? We don't know. They open these microscopic black holes and stuff. It's I don't know. It's hard to explain, but you feel like things are changing in this world, and everything seems to be getting darker and going worse because of people are kind of giving up their morals and kind of giving in to this progressive agenda to kind of change who they are and consistently never staying the same until they're kind of evolving, and they have to keep pushing this agenda and kind of changing things, and everyone has to keep changing and changing. They can't stay the same and stay, you know, family and work and do their whole thing like they've always done before. Now we have to have all these other things, and we have to have all this technology. So our world is really reflecting what Simon Stälenhag's universe really is right now. So it's just my theory, my thoughts, but you know, it's really seems what's happening. But then you get into The Electric State, which is the third book, and it deals with a young girl and her robot just kind of traveling. And as they're traveling, you get to see the environment and how it's all changed and kind of gotten like everything has gone to hell now at this point, and you're starting to see like dead bodies alongside the road, and people, they're basically putting on these virtual reality machines, and they're kind of just giving up life, and it's just, people are just zoning out. And then you feel like, I feel like these virtual reality machines are kind of like cell phones today. I mean, people are so addicted to their cell phone and they won't put it down. But if you just max that out to the nth degree, and basically, what if it was what if cell phones had the ability to mind control you? What if the government had some kind of a program or something so they could use your cell phones to basically mind control you and just put you in this zombie state? And that's basically what these virtual reality machines that they wear, these goggle type things, they look kind of weird. They kind of like look like they're coming too far out, if you ask me. But anyway, and they basically put these things on, and they're just like literally just all looking up, going, oh, you know, just kind of zoning out. And this young girl and her robot are kind of crossing the land and kind of going to a certain place, and kind of you see what they see in kind of the world that they're dealing with now. And it's a very grim world as opposed to Tales from the Loop when it all started. So you could see that things are changing and things are getting worse. So that's really interesting to think about, because all the art in these books, by the way, is something else. I just love this type of stuff. It's very interesting, and I think, like I said, this stuff should be like a trilogy or a bunch of movies. I don't know. They need to make this universe come to life, and it wouldn't be hard because there's not really a lot of story. It's more or less imagery. So if you get the imagery right and you tell a good enough story in this universe, I think people would like it. But yeah, moving on now, it gets into the story of the Labyrinth, which is a young boy basically, and the story is kind of told through a scientist at the lab. But anyway, and you just kind of see what this world is getting. It's getting darker and darker, and now there's like this black goo or whatever. There's a lot more grim stuff happening in this, and you're getting into more of a like an end times type of situation in this world, in the Labyrinth. So that's kind of cool. And I don't want to give away all these stories and everything, but I'm just kind of touching on the feeling of each thing. And each one of these things is basically progressively getting darker and more like the technology has ruined the world. And there's like these robot machines that are just kind of the government, and there's different stuff happening that you get to see, like the consequences of this technology and what it could do. I mean, like the electric state, when I was talking about that, there was stuff where you seen like a war that happened, and there's some of their ships and stuff had crashed, and you just kind of were just sitting there alongside the road or whatever, and you get to see these elements that you're like, there's what, there's like so many stories in just the picture. Like, well, what was the deal with the war? What was the deal with the virtual reality and the whatever is where are the governments? How do the governments feel about this? Are the governments against each other? Are they sharing this technology? There's so many questions that come, and I just love a story that gives you questions, gives you all this world, and you got to play with it the way you're like, gives it to you to kind of go, oh, what's going on here? But there's a story in there to be told too, where they don't have to give you everything. I don't like stories that tell me every single thing and treat me like I'm a dummy. I like it so they leave some mystery in the story, so you're just like, oh, I'm not sure what that is, but it's interesting that just fits right into this world. But moving on, there's a couple of things that kind of feel like Simon Stälenhag's universe. There's a video game called Generation Zero. I think it's a multiplayer you can play, which you can play by yourself on a solo campaign. It's kind of boring, but anyway, I got the game. It takes place in 1989, and it's a group of teenagers basically. And I think it does take place, I don't know, it takes place in some European country. I'm not going to say for sure because I'm not quite sure if it's like Norway or I don't know where it is. It's Sweden. No, I don't know. I'm going to ruin it, so I'm not even going to get into it. But it's basically you're this young person or whatever, and you come back to your country, and these robots have taken over, and it's kind of a grim feeling. Like there's houses and everything, and you just kind of you can go into people's houses and kind of grab stuff and ammo or whatever you need, weapons. But these robots, they will kill you like with no problem. Like it's actually a hard game. They will actually come after you, and you have to find ammo, and ammo's not really super easy to get either. And you just kind of have to go, and there's even bunkers in this game. The map on this game alone is huge. Like it's an open world game, and you could walk forever in this game. There's no vehicles that you can drive or whatever, which kind of sucks because I think that if you got in a vehicle, I think the robots would probably hear you and start shooting at you, because it does have that feeling where you kind of have to be quiet because these robots might hear you and kill you. But it just feels like Simon Stälenhag's universe. So I want to say that the people who made this game, I'm pretty sure that they were a fan of his artwork with these, just the artwork of like the robot standing in the field kind of there. And you just kind of have this feeling like, is this thing out to harm people? What is this thing doing there? Just kind of, it's there, So there's all these robots. They're just kind of taking over the world. There's different kinds of them in this game. And you have to kill them in different ways and blow them up. And they're always in the middle of the road. You'll see that they destroy like anything like that makes a sound. It's creepy. But it kind of feels like the Terminator a little bit too. But it feels more like Simon Stälenhag's work in a lot of ways. That's kind of what it reminds me of, high quality stuff. So that's just something that I wanted to bring up and just talk about. But I don't want to go on forever. I don't want to make this video super long, but I just thought that I'd talk about that and basically tell you guys, hey, look at this stuff and tell me it would not make a great movie. This Simon Stälenhag's work would make for one of the coolest movies if they could do it right without a bunch of SJW, social justice, and the message, without having to shove something down your throat and push political messages in it. If they just kept it a story that's good, that everyone can relate to, then I think they would do a great job. But who knows? They would probably mess it up. So what am I thinking, So yeah. But anyway, that's pretty much everything I want to say about this. So like, share, and subscribe. And thank you for watching.